He was tired of tormenting each other with Wei Xian for most of his life. Before his death, he didn't want to see me at all and asked his children to bring me his last words. In the next life, I would rather be siblings with you for a lifetime than be resentful lovers for half a lifetime, each losing our loved ones. Sure enough, as soon as he was reborn, he busied himself with getting his childhood sweetheart out of prison, showering her with love and affection. Then force his mother to recognize me as her daughter. I smiled, accepted the jade pendant, and obediently performed the curtsy. Greetings, elder brother. His hand paused, then dropped stiffly. Soon, we were both betrothed. He stayed in the capital, while I went to Linen, but on the day the boat left, he took off his wedding attire and jumped into the river, clinging desperately to the side of the boat, begging me to stay. The family has considered it, and it's better for Honga to be my goddaughter. Madame Wei came to the door to return the name card with the birth date for the matchmaking, along with a jade ring as compensation, looking embarrassed, an obvious excuse. As everyone understood, Mother didn't respond, remaining silent and turning away into the inner room. The two had known each other since their girlhood, and had never had such an ugly falling out. I walked over and took the jade pendant from Wei's mother's embarrassed hand. It's Honga's blessing to have two mothers who love me. Wei's mother was moved, sighing as she stroked my face. It's all because of that wretch in our family. I know, recently, the capital has been abuzz with rumors of Wei Xian removing his official hat and kneeling in the palace hall, wagering his future career to beg the emperor to pardon a female prisoner about to be exiled due to her family's involvement, as a noble young master from an influential maternal family. His shameless act enraged the emperor, who personally struck him twice. Wei Xian gritted his teeth, remaining firm and refusing to withdraw his request. Upon returning home, his father also beat him, breaking a whip in the process. He was confined and starved for 3 days. It was useless. He painstakingly rescued the woman and kept her in an outer courtyard. A single phrase of hers, "My chest hurts," sent him into a panic, almost falling off his horse as he rushed to the Empress's palace to seize an imperial physician. Things have gotten to this point, and I really can't help it. Mother Wei lowered her head, crestfallen. My son, since he grew up, has never asked me for anything. He said he didn't want anything. Just for the Wang family girl to be safe. I know, he said the same thing when he was dying in his previous life. In my previous life, Wei Xian and I were husband and wife for 16 years. With no concubines, no drama, and both a son and a daughter. Our relatives all sighed that we were a golden couple, incomparably loving. But as he lay dying from his illness, he wasn't even willing to see me once. He said to his children, "I have repaid all my debt of gratitude to your mother in this lifetime. But there is one person I owe for my entire life. If heaven has eyes and there truly is an afterlife." He would rather be distant siblings with me than repeat the regret of the Wang family girl who died of depression and exile after hearing of his marriage. I think what he said makes a lot of sense. After seeing Madame Wei off, my mother had someone call me back. Inside the room, cups and vases lay in a shattered mess. And my mother, her anger still simmering, glared at me. People just give you lip service, and you're ready to acknowledge them as your own mother. I raised such a spineless child. I avoided the broken porcelain underfoot and leaned on my mother with a smile. They can be perfunctory, and we can be polite. It's all the same. My mother snorted, smooth talker. If you had such eloquence, how could you let your fiancé be snatched away by someone else? Obediently nodding to become someone's sister, you'll never find such a good marriage again. Even with a lantern, the more my mother thought about it, the more she regretted it for me. Blaming herself for only caring about saving face and forgetting to fight for it a little more. It's been so many years. It's been a long time since I've heard my mother's nagging. It wasn't until I became a mother myself later on, with a pair of children around my knees, afraid that they would suffer even the slightest hardship, that I understood my mother's painstaking efforts to force me to marry into the Wei family. My Chu family had already declined by my father's generation, 2 years ago. He was sent away from the capital and died of an epidemic while in office. With no one to inherit his title, he left behind our orphans and widowed mother. My mother proceeded with caution at every step, barely managing to gain a foothold in the capital. But, mother, I wrapped my arms around her warm, fragrant shoulders, leaning close with affection, and lowered my eyes to whisper, "What's mine is mine, no need to fight for it. What's not mine, I can't seize even if I try." Outside, thunder rumbled, threatening rain, while inside, the air was still and ethereal with the scent of dark plum incense, and the gauze curtains stirred. Mother sighed, "Even so, you will eventually marry and cannot stay with me forever. What will become of your marriage in the future?" My eyelashes flickered, and I spoke cautiously. "It's not as if only the Wei family has sons. A few days ago, someone from my maternal grandparents' family in Linen came to our door, seemingly wanting to send a message to propose marriage." As soon as I mentioned this, the fire that mother had suppressed flared up. She pulled away from my hand and scolded, "That's the person your cousin wanted nothing to do with. Your damned uncle, burdened by owing them a favor, used sweet words to foist him off on you." Mother watched me warily. "You better open your eyes wide and don't go fancying that one from Linen out of spite. I've made inquiries. That man was burned into a fool by a sickness at 7, cured at 17, and then became a playboy. All the good girls in Linen find him too disgusting to even mention." My mother held my face, proudly saying, "Not to mention a good girl like you. Even if you were married 3 times, he wouldn't deserve you." I was touched by my mother's care, my nose tingled, and I suppressed a tremor as I shrank into her soft embrace. "But, mother, how can I tell you? The good-for-nothing you look down on has saved my life. In the previous life, during the war and the city was besieged, Wei Xian abandoned me and my daughter and fled with his son. When my hand was broken and my daughter was on the verge of starvation, only he turned back to find me. He carried me on his back, held my daughter in his arms, covered in blood, walked through the dark alleys, squatted down, and let us step on his back to climb out of the broken wall. We found a way out, but he fell behind the wall forever, pierced by random arrows, dying with his eyes wide open. I am going to marry that playboy named Shen Lian in Linen, just like Wei Xian, who insisted on saving the Wang family's daughter, regardless of life or death. My mind is made up. People in the capital used to say that Wei Xian was sick, but now they are including me as well. It seemed Wei Xian was holding others to a higher standard than himself. So he found me when he had some free time. He came straight to the point. "Chu Hong, have you lost your mind?" He understood that I was reborn too, but he didn't understand why. "Who does that Shen guy think he is? Even if he saved your life, he's not worth you throwing your whole life away for him." Beside the willow embankment, thousands of strands swaying, shimmering light and wet rain, I held up my umbrella, looking at Wei Xian. He was very handsome when he was young, with sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes, his skin as fresh as pear-blossom paper, forever painted with verdant landscapes, rich and magnificent. His family, with its illustrious glory, made him cherish himself so much, cherishing the paternal bloodline he shared with his son. That's why his first reaction in the face of disaster was to protect his son. In his eyes, no matter how good his wife was, she was still someone else's who had married into the family. And no matter how much he loved his daughter, she would eventually marry into someone else's family. Only his youngest son, even though not born to the woman he loved, was truly one with him. His wings of pity and protection spread, taking away only one fledgling. Later, his daughter grew distant from him, and until his death, she never called him father as she did in her childhood. His younger son said that he closed his eyes with regret. Regret, really? the cold wind blows the rain slantwise. A fishy smell of water all over my face. Chu Hong, he frowned, displeased with my distraction, and raised his hand to pull me as naturally as he had when we were husband and wife in our past life. I dodged a raindrop, and just happened to avoid his touch as well. Marriage is decided by parents and matchmakers. I smile, reminding him, you don't need to worry about it, do you, brother? Drip. Raindrops hit Wei Shen's frozen fingertips. Brother, he and I are now nominally siblings. And I wear the jade pendant given by his mother at my waist, but he seems awkward, deliberately avoiding me, stiffly lowering his fingertips, concealing them in his wide sleeves. When speaking, he still emphasizes, Chu Hong, we were husband and wife after all. I really want you to be well. He advised me earnestly and sincerely, as if he was truly afraid that I would go astray and suffer. Trust me, I won't hurt you. That man is a failure. You can't marry him. He saved you and nyan nyan. I remember this kindness. I'll repay it. I'll give you fame and fortune. Okay, no. I calmly shook my head. How can he still not understand? There's no reminiscing, no children, no husband and wife between him and me. It's not a question of whether he's willing to bestow favor, but that it's none of his business anymore. Wei Shen took a deep breath, the gloomy rain seeming to weigh heavily between his brows. Think it over carefully. Lian Yu, someone your mother doesn't approve of. Can they be a good person, if you didn't insist on getting married now? He adjusted his tone, forcing himself to be calm. When I have time, I'll find a good one for you among the noble families. I slowly raised my eyebrows, a little surprised that he had regressed to this extent. My ex-husband has lived another life, and his magnanimity has grown, but he probably doesn't have time. In just a little while, that delicate darling in his outer courtyard has something else to occupy him. Urging people to come and find him, the servant was drenched and disheveled as he arrived on horseback. Young master, you weren't there, and Miss Wang threw up as soon as she was given the medicine. The imperial physician is so frustrated he's gone 2 more shades of white, and doesn't want to do it anymore. Wei Shen seemed a little embarrassed because the servant had loudly revealed his private pleasures, and glared at the servant. He turned his head, seemingly hesitant about how to say goodbye to me. In my past life, every time he wanted to leave, I would always understandingly suppress my grievances and say to him, go ahead, but this time I just smiled, like any other irrelevant person, not staying put to watch him leave, left ahead of time. Over in Linen, my uncle was also quite astonished. 3 letters in a row, 3 questions in a row. Is Hong'er really willing to marry him? Ame, you didn't freak out. I'm so embarrassed, uncle. Let me contribute to the dowry too. Okay. Mother's forehead throbbed, and she swallowed her anger, opening the last letter, which was the bride price list attached by the Shen family. After scanning it a few times, suddenly, the veins on her forehead miraculously smoothed out. Good heavens! Mother stared blankly. I looked over curiously, and was stunned. A dense collection of gold, silver, treasures, calligraphy, and paintings, along with land and money vaults, dazzling to the eye. This is the kind of display you'd expect for a princess's wedding, Mother murmured. I was so focused on inquiring about his character that I forgot to ask about the family's wealth. The Shen family is this rich. Would your money-grubbing uncle really be so kind as to give it to his niece? The reason wasn't clear until I finished reading all the letters. My uncle explained in tiny, resentful handwriting, they only want Hong'er. And they won't even consider 2 of my daughters from concubines as concubines. Humph. My mother was tempted. She carefully calculated. Shen Lian is the eldest son of the main family line. No mother, but rich. He's even a bit dim-witted, easy to coax. The other family branches are honest, easy to manage. Linen is my maiden family, so we won't be bullied. Her mother clapped her hands. Her attitude completely changed, and smiled. A fine husband. I followed with a smile. my eyes curved. My gaze lingered on the phrase, lost in thought. Soon, my marriage was settled. The capital and linen are too far apart. For the convenience of the wedding and to avoid a difficult journey, my maternal grandfather wrote early, asking my mother and me to go to Linen to prepare for the wedding. Wei Xian saw that I was determined to go my own way and turned cold, no longer bothering with me. As luck would have it, the day my family announced my wedding date. He also announced his wedding date, and the dates were very close. Right on the day my mother and I planned to leave the capital, a large family returning to Linen naturally had many things to prepare, and the Wei family across the street was also very busy marrying a daughter-in-law. My family didn't have time to attend the Wei family's wedding banquet. So we sent a congratulatory gift before leaving. As the carriage drove past the Wei family's gate, the festive music inside also began to play, blowing, strumming, plucking, and singing, joyous and uplifting. I pass by these sounds of music, just as I pass by my past life, which seemed happy yet wasn't. Welcoming the dawn breaking through the mist of a new beginning. The boat is leaving. I was nervous, after all. My impression of Shun Lian was only of the deputy general who liked to drink and play finger-guessing games in the general's tent when I was trapped in Longcheng. At that time, his family was probably already in decline, and he always looked lazy and half asleep while patrolling the city. I remember that he had once asked my maternal grandfather about proposing marriage to me, and I disapproved in my heart, with a hint of contempt, but he never mentioned it. Even if I were drunk and living a life of oblivion, falling into a vat of wine, it wouldn't have linked me to him in the slightest. He would only pass by during his patrols, see my child running out, clamoring to pick the apricots by the door, while I struggled to reach them, so he kindly stopped, smiled slightly amidst the cheers of the children, and carefully poured a pocketful of ripe apricots into the child's palm. And then, the next time we met, he ran back to find me, trading his death for my life. I can't help but wonder, what will he be like at this age? Just after his coming-of-age ceremony, will those eyes, like in my previous life, be wearied by alcohol? Will we understand each other's true nature and be loving for a lifetime? The ship's bell swayed, and the sails were hoisted. I breathed a sigh of relief in my heart, took my mother's hand, and walked towards the plank to board the ship. In the distance, horses galloped wildly. I vaguely heard someone calling me. The wind was too strong, blowing open the flamboyant red of the festive attire on that person. A chaotic splash of red. Wei Xian fell off his horse, staggering as he ran towards me. He said, "Wait, wait, Chu Hong." But the boat's rope came loose. Just like when he let go of my hand when escaping for our lives in a past life, impossible to hold on to. Splash! He actually jumped into the water, and amidst the gasps of the crowd. With one hand he clung tightly to the side of the boat and with the other he grabbed my sleeve, causing me to stumble and fall towards him. Water droplets splashed and slid across my cheeks, like tear streaks. His black hair was messy and stuck together as he looked up at me, pleading, "Stay, I'll marry you." Just like in a past life, he said. What were Wei Xian and I like in our past life? Not long after marrying him, the Wang family girl died. At that time, my relationship with him could hardly be considered good. He chopped down all the white plum blossoms in the yard and planted hibiscus instead. The yard was filled with vibrant red, a tribute to the Wang family's daughter. The Wang family's daughter, Wang Fusang. Hibiscus blooms all year round, never fading. In the summer, that striking fiery red looks like the burning poison of flowing flames, making me invariably feel upset. I didn't like living in that courtyard. So I often made excuses to go to the side courtyard next to the Buddhist hall to pray for my sick mother. His relationship with me turned around and became close after my mother passed away not long after. After sending my mother's coffin back, I fell on the stone steps of the mountain temple and cried. He hesitated and reached out to me. The man's back was broad, and as I lay on it, my eyes blurred with tears, I thought I had found my reliance in this life. Later, after having a son and a daughter, he smiled more often, and would compromise for his children, planting a few apricot trees that the children liked in the yard full of hibiscus. He put a swing on them, and occasionally the children would mischievously break off hibiscus branches, covering his official hat with petals, but he wasn't angry, he just pretended to be stern, telling them, "If you misbehave again, your mother will only sleep with me tonight." The children protested loudly, and he bent down, picked up one in each arm, and raised his eyebrows at me, who was standing under the veranda, smiling. At that moment, I dazedly looked at the sparse apricot tree behind him, feeling that the blooming and falling apricot blossoms were 8 parts like the plum blossoms I loved, but I forgot. Things that are only similar, even if they are 8 parts alike, cannot compare to the reality of 10 parts. They are merely reflections in a mirror, flowers in the water. Now, the person Wei Shen truly loves is right in front of him. He is only one step away from making up for his regret. I don't understand why he is reminiscing about the past again. His dying words still ring in my ears. He probably forgot, so I gently reminded him, "You're right. Siblings for life are better than a lifetime of resentment as a couple." He looked up and reached for me, very close, but he could no longer catch me and tie me with the rope called wife. Not far away, the Wei family's servants hurriedly swam over. I covered Wei Shen's cold hand, prying it open finger by finger, with force. "If you really want to be good to me, then come to my wedding and drink my wedding wine as my brother, with gifts and in a legitimate manner." The wind in linen is full of moisture, rushing towards my face. Even my eyelashes are wet and drooping, as if they could be wrung out. Many people from my maternal grandparents' home came to pick us up, and my uncle's family stood on the shore, waving to us. My uncle had gained weight, and as soon as we disembarked, my mother started teasing him. "Old brother, you haven't managed to snag a proper official position all these years, but you've certainly managed to rake in a lot of grease." My uncle narrowed his eyes and chuckled. "Auntie, you've still got it. If you don't look closely, it's hard to count all the wrinkles on your face." The two of them were subtly and openly bickering. My aunt and cousin smilingly held on to me, ignoring them. My aunt and cousin spoke in the soft, delicate tones of the Wu dialect. "Were you tired on the way? Your second cousin went hunting in the mountains, said he was going to catch you a fresh rabbit." My cousin took my arm and led me onto the carriage. He just loves hanging out with the Shun boy, and now that he sees we're about to become related to the Shun family, he's gotten even wilder and doesn't know his own name anymore. Speaking of the Wei family, my cousin bit her lip, avoided my mother and aunt, lowered her voice, and asked, "How could aunt agree to marry you into the Shun family? That Shun Lian doesn't have a good reputation." I said it was my own idea to marry him. My cousin was surprised and asked me, "Didn't you used to like Wei Shen?" At the age of youthful infatuation, seeing the noble young man riding a horse in the New Year's parade on Imperial Street, my heart pounded like thunder, uncontrollably. I wrote a letter to my cousin in linen for help. My cousin said that if I liked him, I should try hard to pursue him. Pursuing love is not shameful and is not exclusive to men. A virtuous lady can also seek a gentleman. After learning that he was the Wei family's son whom my mother was painstakingly trying to marry me to, I often ran to the Wei family, relying on the friendship between my mother and Wei's mother. As soon as she saw Wei Shen and received a few words from him, she would happily write to her cousin, describing everything from his handsome eyebrows to the color of his clothes. 3 pages of paper were never enough. It annoyed her cousin so much that she had to rack her brains with every reply, not knowing how to agree with her. Her cousin still laughs when she recalls, "At that time, I was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Afraid that even a single negative word about Wei Shen would provoke you to send another long letter to refute me. I lowered my eyes and whispered. I was ignorant back then. My cousin was incredibly perceptive and immediately understood, gently patting the back of my hand. I didn't dare to speak ill of Wei Shen back then, but now I'm certain of one thing. Shen Lian definitely has one thing over Wei Shen. I looked up in confusion. My cousin said with a very exaggerated expression. Although Shen Lian has a bad reputation, he is really good looking. I burst out laughing, thinking my cousin was trying to coax me. In my previous life, Shen Lian had a scruffy beard, a hunched back, and drooping eyebrows, so he couldn't really be considered handsome. My cousin said, "Really? You'll know when you see him later. Wait." The carriage slowly stopped, facing a group of embroidered-robed young masters hawking on horseback. On the left was the second cousin, followed by several laughing teenagers pushing a young man in the middle wearing a jeweled hair ornament. "Go on, go on." The young man stiffly dismounted, clutching a delicate little rabbit, sunlight glinting off the gold embroidery on his robe, stirred by the gentle breeze. The carriage curtain was lifted high. His eyes met mine unexpectedly. His white jade-like complexion flushed crimson instantly. I never imagined Shen Lian looking like this in his youth, with a face as beautiful as jade, eyes like rippling water, and hair as dark as a raven's wing. He was very nervous, hurriedly shoved the rabbit into my hands, and didn't say a word. The blush on his face almost reached the corners of his eyes. He hastily greeted the elders and ran off, causing much teasing from the crowd. I was slightly lost in thought. When I arrived at my maternal grandparents' house, I learned at dinner that the people of Linen said that Shen Lian had a bad reputation, mostly because he didn't think about taking fame and fortune during his best years, and liked to go in and out of brothels, writing lyrics and composing music for the singers. In addition, he had such a face, which made him seem even more like a gilded exterior with a rotten interior. Gradually, the people of Linen came to regard him as an incorrigible prodigal, and decent girls avoided him like the plague. My maternal grandfather set the wedding date for next year with this concern in mind as well. Though you can know a person's face but not their heart, there's no smoke without fire. Even in the most rumors, there's usually a grain or two of truth. Honger, you're young. And the most important thing in marriage is to avoid acting rashly. Take your time to consider things carefully, and remember the principle that once a woman is attached, she cannot be detached. Hearing this, I felt somewhat ashamed. In my past life, I married Wei Shen on a whim, and because Shen Lian saved my life, I believed he was a good person. I always acted impulsively, rushing to offer myself. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I still haven't changed. I nodded earnestly. Grandfather cherishes me, and Honger understands. My mother, listening from the side, felt the same regret and remorsefully grasped my hand. I was also muddled. Seeing the advantages of his family and wanting to spite the Wei family, I momentarily forgot Shen Lian's character. Seeing him today with such a pretty face, he looks like a womanizer. Maybe we should just forget about it. As soon as I said that, I didn't react much. But my second cousin got anxious first. He ran over. "Oh dear, Aunt, outsiders are just talking nonsense. Shen Lian might know something about writing lyrics and composing music, but he doesn't even meet the singers. He's usually cold as ice. The only time he blushes is when he sees my sister." He turned his head and patted his chest. "Sis, trust me, I won't lead you astray. You hang out with me these days, and I guarantee you'll find out what kind of person Shen Lian really is. My second cousin is the most unreliable person." Before leaving, he swore to my family that he would follow me every step of the way, but as a result, he put me on a small boat and ran off. Shen Lian, who was tricked into coming along just like me, and I exchanged glances from the bow of the boat. Our eyes met, and he immediately lowered his gaze, awkwardly paddling. Green waves rippled, the fragrance of early summer lotuses wafted, dappled sunlight filtered through the trees overhead. and cicadas chirped in my ears. In the silence, I gradually relaxed and peeked at him, but he seemed to be steaming from the top of his head, constantly licking his dry lips, unable to catch his breath. The sun isn't even that strong today. I tilted my head up in confusion. Just as I was about to ask him if he wanted some water, I looked at him and caught him staring at me red-handed. He hastily turned his face away and bumped into a lotus leaf. A shower of water droplets poured down his face. "Phut!" I couldn't help but laugh. He paused, his features clean and bright, his dark eyes clear, and with a slight pursing of his ruby-red lips, he smiled too. This time it was my turn to feel the heat in my cheeks. I shifted my gaze, staring at the flowers, and pulled out my handkerchief to cover my face. Suddenly, a gust of east wind rustled, blowing away my handkerchief, which fluttered into the depths of the chaotic red and shimmering green. Without a word, Shunlian plunged into the water and swam to retrieve my handkerchief. Startled, I trembled. "Shunlian, don't bother. Come back." Outside the lotus pond, a soft thunder rumbled. Dark clouds obscured the sun, and in an instant, the sky turned dark. This scene is so similar to the weather when Shunlian died in my previous life. The damp stuffiness was suffocating. I told him to leave and not to worry about us, but he stubbornly carried me and our daughter on his back, without saying a word. And then, he died. Shunlian. I gripped the ship's rail. Suddenly, a torrential rain came. Not far away, Shunlian popped his head out of the water, wet and smiling triumphantly as he held up my handkerchief. My face turned pale, his smile gradually froze. Back on shore, he went into the water pavilion to take shelter from the rain, remaining silent the entire time. He returned the handkerchief to me, and seeing the moisture in my eyes, he panicked and finally spoke his first words to me, which were, I'm sorry, I scared you." It was fine until I spoke, and then the tears started falling, the guilt over his death in his past life, the sorrow of carrying burdens. And even seeing his peaceful and wealthy life now, 1,000 thoughts swirling, I couldn't explain it myself. Shunlian seemed terrified of my tears, wanting to use his sleeve to wipe them away, but he couldn't find a dry spot on his body, so he could only circle around me, humble and attentive, before I could speak. Shunlian was suddenly pushed away, and a gloomy voice came from above. "Get lost." I looked at the person who came in astonishment. "Did he bully you?" Wei Shen's intentions were clear. Unlike Shunlian, who was so nervous he didn't dare touch even a corner of my clothes, he familiarly raised his hand to wipe away my tears. Immediately, he turned on his heel, ready to punch Shunlian. Shunlian met his gaze coldly. "No, you've got it wrong." I quickly grabbed Wei Shen's wrist. "He's my fiancé." The atmosphere suddenly froze. I composed myself, distanced myself from Wei Shen, and asked him, "Why has brother suddenly come to linen?" As soon as I addressed him as such, Shunlian's expression softened. While Wei Shen looked displeased, Shunlian seemed well informed about matters in the capital, smiling faintly. "I presume this is the Wei family's elder brother. He has come from afar. Forgive my discourtesy, in front of outsiders." Shunlian was poised and confident, not at all intimidated. Wei Shen lost his composure, his tone unkind. "It's not your place to pretend to be polite." Shunlian's expression remained unchanged. "It's only a matter of time." The two secretly glared at each other. Fortunately, my second cousin saw the rain getting heavier and came to pick me up, breaking the strange atmosphere. The Wei family and my family are old acquaintances. My maternal grandfather once served as an official with the older generation of his family in another province. Wei Shen also acknowledged me as his younger sister, and since he had come from afar, my maternal grandfather allowed him to stay at home temporarily. He came to seek medical treatment for Wang Fusu. Wang Fusu fell ill in prison and had been ill for a long time. Hearing that a miraculous doctor was living in seclusion in Maishan, Linen, who was good at treating intractable diseases. Wei Xian came all the way despite the hardship. Young Master Wei is so affectionate and righteous, very good. Mother sighed sarcastically. Wei Xian glanced at me, not knowing who to explain to. I just cherish the friendship of childhood and can't bear to see her suffer for the rest of her life. After she is cured, I will send her back to her clan's hometown and treat her as my own sister from now on. Again, a younger sister. How much does he love being someone's older brother? I was speechless, excused myself with a bow, and returned to my room. As I walked to the veranda bridge, Wei Xian caught up with me. He said he had no intention of marrying Wang Fushang. It was just an act out of anger, and the last words from the previous life were also spoken in a fit of pique because I had been distant and cold towards him ever since returning from Longcheng. I just want you to care about me. His voice trembled. Honga, I don't feel comfortable handing you over to someone else. Uneasy. The calm and open-minded facade I maintained cracked slightly, and I looked at him with mockery. So you were very relieved to leave me and your daughter in that chaotic city back then? I reminded him. Nyan Nyan was only 4 years old and was so hungry she couldn't even call out for her mother. He froze. I approached and whispered, why do you not remember the wrongs you should, and never do the things that would be good to me? Watching the deliberate evasion of his sins leave him pale, I stepped back, my voice icy. You knew my mother would soon suffer a sudden illness. Which is why I went to great lengths to bring Master Shu from my shan as soon as I arrived in Linen, years of grievances collapsing like a mountain. So many imperial physicians in the capital couldn't cure her, and now she comes to steal you from me. Wei Xian, you want me to care about you. But have you ever cared about me even a little? He shook his head. I'm not stealing. Honga, His eyes welled with tears. I just wanted to find an excuse to see you. I was afraid that if I let go, you would really marry someone else. His expression was now bordering on obsession. I can never repay the wrongs I did to you and your daughter in my lifetime. So God gave me a chance to make amends. We are destined to be together. Don't you want our children back with us? The mention of the children caused a pang of pain in my heart, and I resolutely shook off his hand. If you were still their father, I doubt they would have wanted to be conceived in my womb. Wei Xian was severely shaken and on the verge of collapse. That day, a sudden rain fell, and 2 people fell ill. Wei Xian stayed in Linen, using accumulated sorrow and illness as an excuse for his prolonged absence from the capital. As for Shen Lian, his old illness truly relapsed. I asked my second cousin to take Mr. Shu to see him. He said that Shen Lian suffered severe poisoning in his childhood, which, although the poison had dissipated as he grew older, had damaged his foundation. When the illness flares up, it's like 100 claws scratching at his heart, and he can only endure it or drink alcohol to numb the pain, so that's why he drank so much in his previous life. But now, he didn't want to touch a single drop, preferring to endure. The second cousin sighed. He never wanted to become a useless drunkard. Back then, his stepmother poisoned him, turning him from a child prodigy into a fool. Ridiculed for 10 years, the apricots in the courtyard were ripe. But no one picked them. 1 or 2 fell, rotting in the muddy rain. He also wanted to brace himself and strive for success in the imperial examinations. But unfortunately, Uncle Shen passed away suddenly, and this period of mourning would delay him for 3 years. The Shen family's patriarch was also getting old, and he had to support the family's business, big and small. The mournful lyrics he wrote in brothels were sung by courtesans, spreading his name along the Huai River. His talent was devoted to decadent music. Was this not another form of despondency? I lowered my eyes, dejected, and walked to the apricot tree. But then my second cousin changed his tone and said secretly, "But little sister, guess what I saw him doing today?" I pushed his head away, annoyed. "I told you to ask Mr. Shu if there was a cure, but you didn't. All you did was watch him make a fool of himself." Are you even his friend, cousin? Second cousin let out a long hey. Things are different now. He's able to endure a lot. He actually gritted his teeth and sat up to write about the classics. The way he's studying like his life depends on it scares me. After speaking, second cousin leaned in again, acting cheeky. Guess why he's studying so hard? I covered my ears. My second cousin's voice still floated in, incessant. Isn't it like rivals meeting, especially jealous, knowing that the Wei family's boy has a title to inherit and even pass the imperial exam? TSK TSK TSK. This stimulation is even more effective than Xuan's encouragement to learn. Even the illness has to take a back seat. I turned my back, my cheeks flushed, and my second cousin kept nagging. Mai, you have to keep your word. If you want him, you can't dump him. If you turn around and leave with Brother Wei, Xun Lian will probably be so angry he'll hang himself. You believe that? Just the other day, he was trying to please you by picking up your silk handkerchief. You cried, and he went back soaking wet, tossing and turning, and in his delirious illness, he kept grabbing me and asking, why is your sister crying? How would I know? I could only advise. Sorry, brother, women are made of water, and my sister is even more like a Westlake spirit. You have to get used to it. After she marries into the family, you'll have plenty to endure. You're the one who's a duck in disguise. Chattering away, I was mortified and angry. I stood on tiptoe and pulled down a heavy branch beside me, picked an unripe apricot, and stuffed it into his mouth. My second cousin's face contorted. Tooey, Tooey, Tooey. Quiet at last. Mr. Xu is back. I must hurry to find him. Thank you for your trouble, sir. I wonder if there's a way to completely cure Master Shen. Inside the main room, Mr. Xu put down his medicine box, stroked his beard, and pondered. Hard to say. I lowered my eyes. Grandfather and mother were already wavering about this marriage. If Xun Lian doesn't recover, the marriage might really fall through. I bit my lip, struggling with how to respond, and thanked the teacher before planning to leave. Mr. Xu called me from behind. He suddenly mentioned my trip to Maishan to find him, asking me, do you still remember why I agreed to leave the mountain with you? I recalled, considering my words. You said, because of a dream. He nodded, put his hands behind his back, stood up and walked to the window. That dream continued for several days, until your arrival revealed the cause and effect. He turned his back to me. I was originally a fisherman and woodcutter, living in seclusion for many years. Although I possess medical skills, I am not known for them. Yet, you suddenly seek me out, certain that I can cure the illness. I was startled and suddenly realized my abruptness. Mr. Xu of Maishan's great reputation only spread throughout the world more than a decade later. After experiencing the chaos of war, at that time, soldiers in the army drank river water contaminated by corpses with plague maliciously placed by the Hu people, and cholera broke out, harming people's livelihoods, so he resolutely left the mountain and joined the army as a doctor. Later, by a twist of fate, he was captured by the Hu people. Fortunately, Xun Lian risked his life to rescue him and bring him to Longcheng. With such life-saving grace, Mr. Xu had always regarded Xun Lian as his own son. At that time, I often saw Mr. Xu, with his white hair and beard, hunching his back, storming into the tavern to drag Xun Lian out. Now, thinking of the poison in Xun Lian's body, one can imagine the pain he could only numb with alcohol, unable to suppress the pressure of fighting desperately in the army back then. One time, at dusk when the sky was dark, the two of them, one drunk and the other old, both accidentally fell into the ditch. It was the children playing at the door who saw it and called me loudly, and we worked together with great effort to carry them home. Sometimes, grateful for Dr. Xu's medical ethics, I would secretly keep some of my own rations from the grain and rice that Wei Xian had people send in from outside, and when no one was around, I would place them at the back doors of Dr. Shu and Shen Lian. Later, when the city fell and life and death hung in the balance, Dr. Shu and Shen Lian both chose to stay in the city. Without food or drink, it was too hard, and Dr. Shu, being old, couldn't hold on. The last time I saw Dr. Shu, Shen Lian hurriedly carried me to his side. He used his last bit of strength to help me fix the hand that had been broken by the Hu people. But how can these past events be clearly explained? I fell silent. Mr. Shu didn't seem to insist on an answer. Shaking his head with a smile, in those dreams, you and I had several connections, and that Shen boy gave me quite a few headaches too. I was stunned. What do you mean, sir? Mr. Shu waved his hand. Just telling you not to worry. The boy is still young. It's always easier to treat than in a dream. He also told me to relax about my mother's health, to keep her from getting angry, and that taking medicine and maintaining her health would be fine. 2 layers of unexpected good fortune. How could I not be happy? Thank you, sir. I ran out, not knowing who to share the joy with, then ran back, unable to contain my excitement, and bowed again. Thank you, sir. This time I'm really running away. I'm going to tell my mother that Shen Lian will be all right, and I want to spend my life with him. In the wind, I faintly heard